Okay.
All right. The X's podcast back at you Sunday night. We got some pretty deep stuff to go into tonight. Let's hit them with the intro. We'll be right back at you here. All right. What number are we on now? 8? 9?
Yeah. No, that's 8.
8. Okay.
Yeah, that's 8.
Cool. How's your weekend so far?
Count every week. It's warm today. It was like 68 degrees, so I can't complain about that.
Yeah.
And it was just like 30 degrees like 2 days
Right.
ago.
Okay.
I saw a post. Someone said like there's more than 4 seasons, and like they started naming it. And like you get like post winter, then like post fall, fake fall, then the real fall, then the real winter. Because like the weather, I was like, you know what? Because we really have more than 4 seasons now. I wants to wait his turn because 1 minute it's freezing down here, next minute you're outside with flip flops on.
Yeah. It's been Ohio has been Ohio. A lot of crazy things going on in Ohio right now, but for the weather wise, we've been pretty good. I always tell the kids like they want to rush out of the house with no coat on because it's warm out, and I'm like, yo, when it gets 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, you gonna be freezing if you don't have a jacket, brother. So, but in the daytime, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So, all right, first up, should broke moms just give away custody because they're broke? Let's check it out.
Look at it like this. If I had kids, I would tell you straight up, if you struggling and you need money from me to take care of the kids when they with you, you might as well send them this way because I'm okay. So if you're struggling financially trying to figure it out, send them to daddy. You know, I can make it happen over here with nothing from you.
Okay, so what's he missing there? He's basically just saying if you're struggling financially, then it is what it is. Just send the child to the father and be done with it.
Well, here's the thing. If everybody was such fantastic parents on both ends, mother and father, I agree 100% with that. But the reason why I say maybe 50% I can agree is because first, what qualifies you to be a better parent just because you're financially set? Because there's people who have all the money they need to take care of a child, but can they be an actually good parent for the child? So that's what he should have said, because I'm a good parent, or only if you know for a fact this person is going to do more than just provide financially for the child. They're going to still be that parent that a child is going to need. So I say 50% I can agree with that, but the other portion of it is,
Yeah.
in a approach, everyone would be great, but there are some people who just cannot raise kids regardless of their finances.
Well, for me, I think what the guy is missing here is like the caretaker part of it. That's a big part of this equation, and you have to think about what's in the child's best interest. Okay, and if the mother is emotionally the person that has provided for this child from day one, which in the vast majority of situations that is the case, is it really in the child's best interest to just be pulled away from the mother and handed over to the father when the father has more than likely had a hands-off approach when the mother's had a hands-on approach? That's definitely not what's best for the child.
Now, if it's a boy, I would say this. Like, let's say the mom and dad ain't together. They have a son. The mother's taking care of him. Up to he starts to hit that preteen era, and they have not found a way to come back and be in the same house. I think at that particular point, the son needs to go live with the father now, because he needs to have that male figure around. Like, say she's not married yet, or the suitor, they haven't really reached that yet. Like, if he doesn't have that positive male, it's time to go live with dad. You need to go live with dad, like, because you need to like kind of get and again, this is if the father is a good dad, like he's not just paying child support, has nothing to do with the kid. Like literally, you need to go see how men operate on a daily basis, like because that's something teach you that you need your father for. So it's like I'll see you on the weekends, but 5 days out of the week, you're a dad, buddy.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think all children need fathers. I think the value of men in the house or in the life of the children is sort of undeniable. So I can agree with that. I don't think I think what this guy is missing is that he is trying to make this a thing that is just about the money. And it's not just about the money. In my opinion, the best case scenario for all people trying to co-parent is a 50-50 agreement where there's no child support involved. Get the state out of your business completely, right? Because when you go down this road of I'm entitled to X amount, blah, 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 when you go down this road of fighting each other over money, it stops being about the daggone children and it becomes all about who owes who what, right? And I don't like that. I don't deal in it personally. And it's kind of weird, but I think that most men see it this way. Most single dads sort of operate in this place where they really don't want to make it about money. They want to make it about the children. But child support forces their hands. It forces them, right, to have these battles over money. Few interesting quick stats on this that I found kind of interesting. And these are older stats. I admit that it's not like I have a statistician that works for us here that can dig up the newest available stats and studies and whatever. So I do try to find some stats and provide information, but it's not always the newest information available. But this is from 2011. America's custodial fathers were owed a total of 1.7 billion, and custodial mothers were owed 12.1 billion. But keep in mind, moms who are owed child support outnumber dads almost 9-1. Right? So there's a when the roles are reversed and it is the man that is trying to collect child support from the woman, they actually have a harder time getting that money from the woman. Women are less likely to pay child support when they're ordered to pay child support. Right? And so again, I go back to why not get the state out of your business? Sign a shared parenting agreement where you split the time half and half, and that's it. That's it. Y'all just focus on taking care of the children. And if the mother does have a difficult time earning income, the best thing I think that the father can do for her is to free her time up to focus on things that'll help her earn better income, right? To go out into the world and get skills and certifications and licenses or whatever that will elevate her earning power. Another stat that sort of plays into what I'm saying. Average household income for a father who doesn't get child support, $51,000 a year. For moms, that figure is $26,000 a year. So without child support in the house, no child support order, financially, men fare way better off in the marketplace. And that is not, I don't think that that's a reflection of the desire and or ambition of a woman. I think that that's a more of a systemic issue, right? With women in the workforce and not earning as much as men. But we can't change these things if we don't come up with solutions around them. For me, the solution is go out and get a career.
Yeah. I mean, that would be again fall into a perfect world. Like we would hope people want to do that, but all people sometimes it's those breakups. It just brings out the in people, and it's really sad. Like when there's a child involved, because I guess like if there's no kid, it's different. Like you don't have to deal with them, but when there's a child, you have to. And so you would think that they want to, because me personally, I think the person who's taking care of the child, like I would care if their lights were on. So I'm not. I don't think. I don't know if I was a guy. I don't know if I would take a dig at the person that is taking care of the child, who's primary parent, because I'm gonna say if they're doing bad, then my child is doing bad. So I just
Right.
couldn't get off on making fun of them for that. I'm like, if her
I
lights
agree.
ain't finna be on, then it ain't gonna have lights. So instead of me like making fun of it, let me see how I can help the situation
No,
because
I
they have the
agree.
child.
Yeah, no, I
Mhm.
agree. My children's mother doesn't even live in my household, and I still want the best for her. I fit into that category of she should be paying me child support, right? She should be. She doesn't. She should be. But you know what? I'm not on this hell-bent mission to go after her for child support. I want to see her elevate her life. And until she elevates her life and can take care of herself, there is no expectation for me that she's going to be able to help me support the children. She can't even support herself, right? So, and there's a lot of men, unfortunately, in that situation too. And we're trying to put child support on men that they have way bigger issues than child support, right? They need to work on themselves a little bit before they sort of are hit with that kind of responsibility. But um, I think the frustrating thing to me here is in this clip, the guy even says he's not a father, he's not a parent. Well, that kind of is very telling to me because it's like the reason you're able to say this is because you've never actually had to experience or face the issue yourself. But it isn't as simple as, oh, well, the mom's broke, so, and the dad's not, so just give the kid to the dad. It doesn't work that way. The children, especially if there's no emotional connections between the father and the child, right? If the father has never played an active role as a caretaker, then that's not what's best for the child. And he's just missing that completely.
I think it's just the whole thing on instead of me paying you child, let me just take the kid so I don't have to pay the child support. Like that's what it really boils down to. You just don't want to pay child support. So that's why you see it as a
Yeah,
solution, because
yeah.
if you say that you're not broke, well, here's the thing. If she has a certain amount that she makes a year and you're only making like maybe $1,000 more than her on the year, then both of you are in the same boat. So you really can't do much more. But then think of it, when there's another mouth in the household and it's just you by yourself, the expense is more. Regardless, you have to provide for the child and yourself. So yeah, obviously, but again, people like to make the world more complicated than it needs to be. So
Yeah. All right. Well, there's an interesting story coming out of Ohio in regards to the way a teacher has decided to approach apparently a struggling parent. I mean, I'm making that as an assumption because the report doesn't really outline the reason behind it, but let's go check this out.
The teacher has been placed on leave after being accused of sending concerning messages to a parent. That teacher allegedly offering to take custody of the child from the parent.
In what's shaping up to be quite an odd story, a parent brought those messages from a teacher to administrators earlier this week. Thursday, Lancaster City Schools sent a letter to parents saying they learned of concerning messages. That parent, who I've been in contact with this evening, posted screenshots of the messages to her Facebook page. And in those messages, she claims the teacher says the child could, quote, come live with me if you want, end quote. In another message, she claims the teacher again says, quote, I'm just willing to take her, but clearly that's not okay with you, end quote.
Okay, so disrespectful teacher or just a concerned teacher? Pretty hot water.
well, if I'm not mistaken, if I heard in there, okay, she posted the text message pictures on her social media.
Yeah, the parent posted
So that was disrespectful then.
No,
But now,
the
if
parent,
her being
hold on. I think you might be misunderstanding. The parent received text messages from the teacher saying, "Hey, you know, I'll just take custody," and the parent took those messages, screenshot them, and put them on. Yeah,
yeah, well then I was concerned because here's the thing about some of these educators. You're lucky if okay, we go to school 12 years, and then if you go to college and you got some more years and back with a teacher, but some educators are more than just educators. I can speak for 2 that I still stay in contact with to this day that have went above and beyond for people, like, they almost felt like a second mom.
right.
So, maybe if we heard her side, like, if they, even I think they should have maybe, and I get it, you don't wanna look like you're kinda siding with the teacher, but I should hear more on her side, like, what was her actual intentions, because if she was concerned, because it could have been, how was the child coming to school? Like, were they able to
Yeah,
afford lunch? Like, you just
that's what
don't
I'm
know, like,
saying.
it's some hard times going on. So to me, it kinda sounds like, listen, I'm not trying to take custody, but, like, I'll literally become early if that can kinda take some weight off your shoulders a little bit, and then at the same time, have a closer look at their education, make sure they stay on track, because one thing about it, we know if a parent financially or whatever the case might be, that child goes to school with that. Like, they literally, you can tell like something is going on at home and it is affecting the child in the classroom.
So, as
So
a
I'm just
parent,
disrespectful.
as a parent, I'm gonna say that the teacher overstepped her bounds, and you're right. The problem with us having this conversation is probably that we don't have a lot of information as to what the
Mhm.
reasoning. It would be nice if we knew what the circumstances were surrounding this child, but we can take a little bit of note from what decisions have been made around the school board deciding to indefinitely suspend the teacher and so forth. You can kind of, that decision right there is telling, I think. And for me as a parent that occasionally does struggle, right? I do my best to make sure my kids go to school with clean clothes on and full stomachs and all of these things, nice haircuts, what have you, right? Um, but as you said, it's hard out here. It's very difficult out here, and I know that there's a lot of people that are a lot less fortunate than we are. So I can
Right.
only imagine how difficult it is for them. And if a teacher sent me a message of that nature, I would be so furious, right? I would be floored. Now, I've had parent teacher conferences with my children's teachers, and they know our situation at home. They know that we struggle time wise. I'm only one person. There's two of them. There's one of me. And they know that we have a difficult time. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's judgmental even of the teacher to say, to send a direct text message at that. Like, that's not even the
Mhm.
proper way to communicate your concern directly. Like, if you do have a concern about the student's welfare and well-being at home, the proper lines of communication there are not to dig up the parent's phone number and contact them directly. That's almost disrespectful, right? Because it's like it's as if you're doing that to insult them. It's not really to help. It's being sent, or at least received. It would be received by me as an insult, because again, if you have concerns about whether the student's being taken care of properly at home, we have child protective services, you have a board of education. There's all kinds of ways that you can go about making sure that the child's being taken care of at home without directly sending a text message to the
Offering
parent,
to help because we
that's
know
not
that
offering to
sometimes
help.
CPS sometimes takes kids that don't need to be removed and leaves kids that need to be removed in the house. So CPS is kind of a little more, and then you got to know if you go to CPS, a case stays open even after they come and investigate your. It stays open for a while, like so. That whole thing with CPS is a little sticky. So I don't know. I feel like maybe this teacher, and she maybe did go about it the wrong. She should talk to her in
Definitely.
person rather than put it on paper, because then she could have probably denied it later and like anything like that. She's lying. But I don't know. I think maybe if we get her side, maybe she'll make a statement later. Because I mean, it's not like she's in jail or anything. So
No,
that's
there's no criminal charges or anything like that.
right. So I
Somebody
think she should like come and like, defend herself, because we got one side, which
right.
I think we need to hear from her. And then depending on her response, I guess it'll be able to determine like, okay, so yeah, you was flat out disrespectful, or no, you kind of was concerned, but you just went about it the wrong. I think maybe it should have been a phone call or something.
I just think
I
that
don't know.
as a parent, and I've seen this because I have had my children have been right at
Mm-hmm.
2 different districts, okay? And these districts have cultures, okay? And some of the board members that get elected to these boards of education, they're very pro parent, right? They're very pro, like,
Mm-hmm.
listen, the parents are the ones that are voting me into office. And so they try to be very pro parent. And then other boards of education, on the other hand, are very pro teacher, right? And I can tell you that I moved away from one district that was very pro teacher into a district that was very pro parent. And I have to tell you, the way that the education system is set up, it's not set up so that teachers, bad performing teachers, are easy to get rid of, right? So what you end up with sometimes is people that get into these positions and they just feel entitled because you can't fire them. Even if they have bad performance, you can't fire them, right? And now, don't get me wrong, there are teachers, the vast majority of teachers, I feel like, are well-meaning and want to do the right thing by students. But just like any other profession, there is bad apples. There's no way around that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if you're the type of teacher that is looking at your students and you're saying, oh, well, they come into school dirty, they don't, you know, you can tell that they have a bad home environment, and your response to that is to attack the parent. Oh man, that's just
I wish we could have saw the
don't
messages
know.
though.
You just don't know what that parent is going through,
That's what I mean. But see, that's why I'm saying I think that she may not have intended to come off as she was taking, a dig at her parenting. I think maybe she was looking, because again, like I said, CPS is not always the option. Sometimes it can be worse dealing with them than just dealing with like a teacher. Cause like I've seen, even coming up in the public, I've seen some teachers kind of like step in to help in situations, and they meant nothing bad. It's just they kind of wanted to, "Hey, listen, if I can take this monkey off your back, I'm going to do it because I'm more than just teaching. Like I actually care about kids." So
Yeah.
that's why I said I wish if we couldn't hear from her, then maybe like leak the messages so we can kind of
Yeah.
read it to
Right.
see how she worded it, because and they may have suspended her because it looks like the right thing to do, but I don't know. Depending on what she wrote, I don't even know if it's even deserving for her to be suspended, to be honest. Like they could have gave her a write up and
I don't
sent her
know.
back to the
I
classroom.
think if it was me, if it was me and my kids, I'd be calling for her job. I'd say I don't want her teaching,
It
period.
depends on what she said to you though,
Her
because we don't
job,
know yet.
her job is to make sure my kid knows how to read and write. Right. So
Yes, but
she's
there are
stepping outside
also,
of her bounds. Like, it's not her responsibility.
but some people do, but and sometimes stepping out of those boundaries is not necessarily a bad thing, just depending on like what it is. Because like I said, like you see some teachers who go they under promise and over deliver, and then they also like do so much more. Like there are some teachers out here who, they literally still have like that parent patch on too. Like I'm not just like while they're my, like I look at them as if they're my own kids, even though biologically they're not. But I'm saying you do have some that literally, because they've seen it. And you think of how many students a teacher sees in like a 5-year period. There's so many kids. She's probably seen situations where that parent reminded her other kid and she might not have did anything then. And so she's looking at, well, let me kind of, and that's why I said we just want to know without seeing or even hearing a response. Like maybe she'll make a TikTok.
I
Run
don't know
into
about
can like do like an update on it. I don't know. I hope she does, because I just want to know, like, did you have you generally trying to help? So I don't know.
All right. Well, the next one's a pretty heavy one in the news recently. We'll just check it. We'll react to the video.
An illustrious career, a long, happy marriage, a sudden tragedy. Singer Kellie Pickler's husband, Kyle Jacobs, has died by. Law enforcement says the former American Idol star, Kellie Pickler, woke up inside the couple's home in Nashville, Tennessee, and noticed that her husband wasn't in bed. She started looking around the house for him and worried that something may have happened when she couldn't open an upstairs door. Pickler called 911 and emergency personnel came to the home where Jacobs was found dead. He was 49 years old. According to E! News, Pickler and Jacobs lived a private life together in Nashville. Pickler and Jacobs tied the knot in 2011 and didn't have any children together. Kyle Jacobs was a talented songwriter who played the piano, the guitar, and he could sing too. Kellie Pickler gushed about her husband to people back in 2015. He is so good at what he does. The two had worked together several times since they first met. Pickler said, "I'm so excited to be in the studio again, recording a new album, and working with Kyle has been amazing. He has watched me perform over the years, so it was great to have a front row seat as an artist and see him in his element." Jacobs, who also doubled as a music producer, collaborated and wrote songs for some of the biggest country stars, including Tim McGraw and American Idol alum Kelly Clarkson. In 2007, Jacobs earned his first Billboard #1 song after Garth Brooks' More Than a Memory topped the chart. In 2014, the talented songwriter added to his slew of achievements when he snagged an Academy of Country Music Award for producing I Drive Your Truck, Lee Brice's 2012 hit song. But while the accolades and achievements were great to have, Jacobs never got carried away and was always true to writing songs that spoke to the heart. He wrote in a 2021 Instagram post, "One of my favorite things to do as a songwriter is writing songs with beautiful hearts in beautiful places." As the music scene continues to mourn Kyle Jacobs' sudden demise, fans continue to search for clues that might have suggested the songwriter had a troubled life, except there doesn't appear to be any. If anything, Jacobs' social media always portrayed him to be in good spirits. Kellie Pickler and Kyle Jacobs kept their marriage private, but between them were a lot of beautiful memories. For instance, in the early 2000s when the couple met, Jacobs hoped to impress Pickler with his success, and so when it was time to introduce himself, he said, "Hi, I'm Kyle, I'm a songwriter." The plan, however, did not work out as well as he planned, as Pickler was largely unimpressed. But it did not take too long for the pair to start working together, and even better, to fall in love. Eventually, after years of dating, Jacobs popped the big question on June 15, 2010, a day the tough singer has described as one of the most memorable of her life. She recounted in a 2017 Instagram post, "After Kyle got down on one knee and me screaming yes, we watched the sunset slowly paint a colorful end to a beautiful day." Pickler and Jacobs exchanged wedding vows in a beachfront ceremony in Antigua. Pickler told People at the time, "When two people get married, it's not about the glamour, it's about the bride and groom and God. We didn't have anything but us and God and our minister, and I can't think of a word that can quite describe how perfect it was." If you or anyone you know is having idle thoughts, please dial or text 988. You can also seek help by visiting 988lifeline.org.
Okay, so very heavy there. My parents, big Kellie Pickler fans. Just all too common, I think, where someone does this and there were no signs anywhere to anyone. And maybe there is to people that are closer to them. Maybe Kellie knows stuff that we don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe she's aware of depression issues, what have you. But just a very sad thing to deal with. And that clip's a little longer than what we usually do. But I felt like it was appropriate to sort of showcase that, because I kept hearing Kellie Pickler's husband, instead of people calling him Kyle Jacobs by his name, everybody's saying Kellie Pickler's husband. And I'm like, he was more than that, right? Like that's not the only, like the media is just phrasing this the wrong way, right? The way that they're speaking about it is wrong. The guy was a successful songwriter and song producer in his own right, highly successful in his own right. Outside of being the husband of Kellie Pickler, he had his own life, his own, pathway, and he was very successful at it. And you just look at it all and you just wonder, how can you have so much in life, right? And it not be enough? And what's at the root of it? Your thoughts?
Well, see, that's the thing. What they say, money doesn't buy happiness. So, and there are certain things that money you can't throw out. As far as the depression side, like depression does speak, but it's about being aware of what it looks like. And for most people, they equate a smile to happiness, and that's not always the case because, like, for instance, this takes me back to like Robin Williams, right? Every time you die, what was he doing? Making you laugh. And they said sometimes the people that make you laugh the most be the most depressed.
Right.
And you wouldn't even know they feel like crap. So they want the people that they're around to feel great because they want to feel great. So and her, with that being her husband, I mean, I would think that she's something. Even your silence can be a sign like something is wrong. If they're normally talkative, whatever the case may be, like, and especially when you're married, I think that that's one of those things that you have to kind of like you learn your partner's traits.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of learn you learn like what they do on a day to day. So when they're not doing it, it's kind of like throws a flag of like, well, normally they do that. Why they not doing it? But I mean, sometimes too, I think we don't want to ask questions sometimes. And that's why it's important to ask people and be genuine when you say, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Because it's so easy, like we're greeting people and we keep on moving. It's not like, let me stop and let me make sure, are you doing okay today? But it's the little trust. And with them being married, that would be the question I will never get an answer to, is why he didn't feel comfortable enough to open up to her and say what was wrong.
I seen a
Like
thing.
he was something.
I seen a thing by Dr. Jordan Peterson recently, a clip by him where he talked about the difference between having a bad life, bad circumstances, and being depressed. And the way that he broke down the difference was that, having a bad life is like being addicted to drugs, not having a home, not having a car, not having a job, not being with your children, like hopping from house to house to house to have a place to live. And like, that is different than depression, in that depression, you can have all of these things. You can have a happy, right? You can have a good, successful career. You can have a happy wife or a happy husband, happy relationships. You can have your children can give you, just like you said, Robin Williams, good example. You can have everything that a person can want, but there's still something underlying there with your mental health that just makes you not satisfied with life. And where I'm at in my head, thinking about that, it's like, if that being the case, then what can you really do? How is, I mean, we all keep looking for the magic answer here, for different signs and different indications, and how can we prevent this, and how can we get to them before they do it? But it's like, if it is the case where you can have everything that a person could want in life and still not be happy, and be to the point that you're so unhappy that you unalive yourself, I just don't know that there's a magic answer here.
Well, it follows the communication thing. So if you don't feel comfortable communicating with your spouse, your partner, family member, or friend, your last resort is going to be a therapist. I mean, because at least at the end of the day, they offer, they're not going to tell what you said. They can't, like, literally. The only way they can tell what you said, and we know that is if you are planning on harming yourself and they feel like, they have no choice. That's just within their credentials. They have to do that. But other than that, go tell your wife. They can't go tell your family. So you have to be able to find someone you can confide in. You cannot keep emotions bottled up and think they're going to go away on their own. That is an unrealistic approach to life itself. We are not built to steal. You have to get it out somehow. If I was her, I would even be looking to see, did he keep a journal? I don't know if he was a journaling type. I can't really
Right.
speak on that. But even that, like, you don't want to talk, you're going to have to learn how to journal, but you have to be able to channel your emotions in a healthy way. Because if you think it's healthy just to not say anything, to go sit in the corner at every function, even when you're at home, you don't want to communicate, you don't want to go outside, you have to figure out, you have to take back control of your life, because you can take over your life.
Yeah.
And that is a factor that leads to it. It's normally you are depressed. You do not see your life as worthy of being here anymore. And when you don't have no one to talk to, like, that's, and he more than was financially able to get some type of counseling or therapy, whatever was needed. Again, it's that stigma. We have to get rid of the stigma that going to a therapist makes us weak. It doesn't.
Well,
But
and
don't suffer in silence. Just don't do it.
yeah,
It's not
and to
worth
what
it.
you're saying, as I always do, I tried to go out and gather some information, and I tried to put that against my own sort of personal experience. And what I found is pretty outstanding statistically. Um, Men account for the overwhelming amount of unaliving out there. I've seen stats 80 to 85%
Hmm.
of unaliving is it's men. It's men, plain and simple. By let's see, by race, top, let's go. Okay, American Indians are the most likely, Native Americans, then white, and then women actually correlate with this as well. White men and women, Asian, Hispanic, and then black. Um, just the gender thing was really shocking to me. And the thing is in the last 20 years, timeline wise, it's increased significantly. So we're seeing more of this. And it's just like, at what point, at what point is it not going to get so alarming that we begin to start trying to think of ways to help people? And going back to the Jordan Peterson thing, right? The difference between having a good life and having everything, and having, like, being depressed despite the fact that you have everything, and sort of having a crappy life. Like, I look back at my own personal experience and being a man, I can tell you that there have been moments where I've been so overwhelmed with life, where I have had a sense that come over me that I just think life would be easier if I wasn't here without life. Like, it's easier not to live than to live, because my life at that time was so difficult and had so many, it just wasn't where I wanted it to be. Right. And so, going back to the analogy that Jordan Peterson made, where he said you can have everything that you want out of life and still be depressed. Well, when I look at the moments when I was most vulnerable and most depressed and most, like, you know, this affected me the most personally, it wasn't in moments where I had everything. And the causes of it were because I didn't know if I was ever going to get to where I would get everything that I wanted. And life just felt so difficult. The battle uphill of climbing uphill was just so overwhelming. Um, so in that way, I wish that I wish that other people's experience was like mine, right? In that once I started to achieve things that I wanted to achieve, once I started to reach the points at life, the goals that I had set, once I started to get those things, these feelings started to go away for me. Or they were less frequently, had to deal with them less. So I wish I could say that it was the same for other people, but men are a difficult species, because as I told you on the phone the other day, if you would have come to me when I was at my worst, in my deepest depressions and loathing, if you'd have come to me and said, "Hey, JC, there's a support group for men that you can go to, that you can talk about these things," I would have looked at you like you were crazy, because my pride would have prevented me, right, from associating myself with those men down there that are pitying themselves and wallowing in self-pity, right? Like, my pride would never allow me to be so open about my feelings. And so when addressing solutions for this, or thinking about how to resolve the fact that men seem to do this at alarmingly higher rates than women, I don't I have a difficult time with that. I have a difficult time finding the solution for it. Because I don't know what it is. Support groups aren't really manly things.
But that's only because you guys look at them like they're not manly. Like, who makes the rules on that? Again, we make up stuff as we go based on how it sounds sometimes, instead of like giving stuff a chance, because there are actually male support groups out there. And actually, there's one, and I forget the name of this page. It's on TikTok, but I came across. And literally, the guy, like, they have a support group where, like, these guys come there that have all this stress that got bottled up in them. And, like, the end goal is to get them to let those feelings out so that they can have healthier outcomes in life with just overall their mental health. And I was like, there's be more stuff like that, because men think that if they cry, it's a sign of weakness, and it is not. If it was weak for a man to cry, God would have never created the ability for you to do so. Trust and believe me.
Yeah.
Women cry too. Like, we all have our moments where, yes, we go through things. It's normal to get down, just like it's normal to be happy. I think what it is like anything outside of happiness, when it comes to feelings, we equate that's bad. But the thing about it is, life is about balance. So every day can't be sunshine and rainbows. Like, there has to be a balance, because if you don't have bad days, if you don't have your down days, how are you going to know how to be grateful for the good days? You don't, because there's no balance. So you can't get so hooked on one feeling because it feels good, that now that I feel it's like, but I want to stay bottled in. And that's why I keep telling men, those things that you say you have, these are your best friends. You trust them with your life. Well, why you can't trust them with your feelings?
Sure.
Because even if he goes out and, like I said, and you got some people, they'll tell another friend, that's not a friend. So just get rid of them. But here's the thing. Shame you anything you come to peace with. So if you come to peace with it within yourself and you share this information, nobody can make you feel bad for repeating it. They'll try as a dig, but if you come to peace with it, it doesn't affect. But if you're bottling things up, you haven't come to peace with it. Like, you're just adding stuff on. You have to find a way to be vulnerable, find a way to open up. If you don't trust your family and friends, then I don't understand what the problem is with therapy. But we gotta, like, get out of this thing where we cannot be a moment of weakness. That's so unrealistic with life. It just is. We're allowed to be sad. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, just
Yes.
don't be like Eeyore every day.
Tougher for men than I think other
Because of the
You're right,
stigma.
but what we need to do is make it more commonplace for men to learn emotional intelligence. Plain and simple. We need more resources available for men to develop emotional intelligence. Period. Because as I've said before in the past, I'm a big firm believer in improving emotional intelligence, not just from a professional and business standpoint, in leadership standpoint, but from being a better person as a whole, being a better father, being a better husband, being a better son, brother, the whole nine. Like, one of the best things that you can do for your quality of life, for your mental health, for the people around you, is learn how to identify, acknowledge, and express your emotions better. Because you can't solve problems that you can't even acknowledge and identify. The very first,
That's when you gotta open
yes,
up.
the very first, the first thing that you do in problem solving is identify and acknowledge the problem. That's the first step. And when it comes to emotions, if you can't do that, if you're having problems with emotions, if you can't identify and acknowledge them, you have no hope of working through them. So, all right, next
Exactly.
topic is a fun one. And we're going to encourage you guys to give us a call if you're passionate about it. Throw the number up here on our banner, and let's check out our last video and topic for the night.
Date a guy that don't have no money, but he treats you so good.
I'm not gonna date a guy just because he has money.
No, he has no money. Like, everything's.
It's like dating a bum. Like, I'm not gonna date a bum,
but he
it's like,
treats you well. And then again, he make ends meet.
Why do?
But if you see a guy, he's mentally like there.
Wait, he broke, but he making ends.
Like,
Yeah.
he has a 9 to 5, but he barely making. He make $1,000 a week. That's nothing.
$1,000 a week is a lot of money. That's $4,000 a month.
After taxes, it's $800.
That's not
That's
broke.
not a broke.
That's broke.
That's broke.
Okay, that's not broke.
Okay, so is $1,000 a week broke? That's an interesting one for me. I don't think that she's wrong, depending on where she's at. Like, if she lives in New York City or Miami or Los Angeles, $1,000 a week is broke.
Well, you can't even live in Los Angeles making $1,000 a week. You're not going to find any type of home. You're going to be on the streets, Skid Row.
Right. Right.
But no, it's not. I guess if you could look at that conversation two ways. So, right. So $1,000 a week, every other week it's 5,000, right? So even still at the end of like, I guess if you talk about how much they make in a year compared to someone else's salary, yeah. But here's the thing about it. They still are bringing in a paycheck. So you can still pay rent off of dollars a week if you live in like a place like where I'm at, where you're at. As long as you don't live in New York and California and Vegas, I'm pretty sure you can make it.
I mean, there's some high, high earning medium wage places, counties, what have you, the Hamptons, there's some places. You're right. Generally speaking, $1,000 a week across the country, almost anywhere you go, is going to be enough to get by. And I would also just mention that there are a lot of places in the country. We're really talking about the median income. Okay. So when they say $1,000 a week, they're talking about what amounts to approximately the median income across the entire country. Now, when you're talking about median income, that means that a whole lot of people make more than that, and a whole lot of people make less than that, right? That's the idea of median. Where I'm at, and I'm sure where you're at, IKEA, the median income per individual is a lot lower than $1,000 a week. So that means that the cost of living, like where I'm at in Ohio, in southeast rural Ohio, $1,000 a week is about twice as much as the median income for an individual. So you're making double what normal folks around here are making. And so if you're doing $1,000 a week here, you're doing pretty daggone well. And most people in this area that are making that, if they're working a blue collar job, they're working overtime to get that. You're not talking about a 40-hour, flexible. Hey, baby, I got time to take you out to the movies on Friday and Saturday night and out to eat and so on and so forth. No. $1,000 a week for a lot of the guys that I know means they're working overtime. So it's
They got the weekend couch potato husbands because he's gonna be in the recline Friday to Sunday night.
Yep.
Well, if he goes to work on Saturday, from Saturday night, that's where he'll be at. So, but to me, I think it was just an ignorant conversation because clearly the mindset in the room that was saying that unrealistic, because I would have just probably reversed the question, like, how much do you make a week?
Yeah, I was thinking
Unless you're calling somebody else broke.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, oh, okay. You want to say $1,000 a week is broke? How much you bringing to the table, woman?
Okay, probably
right?
Nothing.
Because it took this homeboy right here 10 years. 10 years. Well, really longer than that, if I'm being honest about it. Like, even if I look back to, if I say, okay, at 18 years old, I began my working age career, right? It took me 15, 16, 17 years of developing a resume, developing a portfolio, developing a work history of experience where I was finally offered a job where I made that kind of money. Like, where I'm from, you don't just get offered $1,000 a week flippantly. Like, it just doesn't happen like that around here. Especially if you're trying to find a job where you're not living there 60 and 70 hours a week. It's just very hard to obtain.
And most of the time, jobs like that, you best believe, like, they're doing something that requires the usage. They're probably, like I said, on an oil rig. Trust me, they're getting dirty. Most of the jobs that are giving men that type of money is because they're literally on their feet and they're actually having to go to different job sites every week. I mean, it's a job. So that's why, you know, asked what she do for a living, and she probably wouldn't have had to tell me how much she was making based off of the job title she was saying. If you have common sense on what particular, like what kind of salaries for certain job positions, I mean, it's literally a simple internet search and it'll tell you. But it's just, again, you have now. If he would have said 5,000, she would have said something different. Because she's just looking at the amount of money, but she's not even thinking taxes. There's taxes. The more you make, the more you make.
Right.
So,
well, and I would like
I mean, I wouldn't be mad.
I would like for us to do a segment on what I consider is a pathway or a sort of here's how you approach getting ahead in life, because I feel like I have a pretty good sense and a pretty good experience of how to achieve what you want to achieve financially. So I think it would be a good exercise for us to one of these nights get into, okay, what's the first thing that you got to focus on, right? And in my opinion, that's earning power. And so when you talk about credit and saving and investing and all of these things, and what's the best pathway to go from making a very little amount of money, low wage earner, so on and so forth, to being a, at least median wage earner where you can put back a little money and have a higher quality of life. There is ways, and there's many different ways. I mean, it's not like JC's way is the only way. I just think that my way is a fairly common way. And I think that people lack access to information when it comes to these things. They feel overwhelmed by it because they don't know what it's like when you want to drive somewhere, you just cue into the GPS where you want to go and it tells you where to go. Well, they don't know the address. So they need the address. And I think that we could give them the address.
But then, and then also even just telling people, because a lot of stuff that people are doing today, anyone can pretty much do it. So it's like when you're negotiating your salaries, like knowing how to negotiate your salary, but also making sure you're not boxing yourself in, because there are a lot of like they don't even really need you for anymore. So it's like, if I can get the computer to do it because these programs are being made, your job position is like sweeping the floor, literally. And I'm not even trying to come at janitors, but I'm not literally, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like you have to know how to differentiate these days, because if you go in and say, well, like I know I do this, and they're like, but what makes you different? You have to know how to be competitive when it comes to being selected for these jobs, especially when you're negotiating your salary. Because if you don't even know how to negotiate your salary and understand your value, you're gonna like literally, if they pick you, they're not paying you what you're asking for, and you're gonna settle for that lesser than what you wanted. So yeah, I think that would be a good one we can do in the future.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think we got a pretty good episode here in. This has been number 8. We got a good guest coming on the show next week. She's got some videos that have done pretty well on TikTok about her experience as a stepmother, and she's agreed to come on and tell us and talk to us about her experience first being a stepmother, and then how difficult it was for her happening to exit that relationship. So she got really attached, and then had to go through the difficult process, which I've been through this, of not only leaving the parent, but exiting that child's life. So it'll be a good show. It'll be fun. Hopefully we see y'all next week, Sunday night. Peace.
All right, bye.